Hey everyone, the channel is on its journey to reach the first 1,000 subscribers. A small milestone, but a truly meaningful one. If you enjoy the content, hit subscribe and let's cross this first milestone together. The reason why Han Li, at the early Nascent Soul stage, encountered the Mulan people. The late stage 4th Divine Master arrives to kill, but Han Li showed no sign of fear. You really think you can fight me? Your Excellency is truly arrogant. The brocade robe giant sneered. A hint of sarcasm curled his lips, just as the atmosphere grew tense. A woman's voice came from behind. He cannot do it alone. But what if you add me to the equation? A pleasant female voice suddenly came from the side. Han Li was taken aback at first, but he was immediately overjoyed. Who is it? The brocade robe giant was secretly alarmed. His eyes flickered as he immediately asked, I never expected that after just over 100 years of not seeing you. Fellow Taoist Jia, you've actually advanced to the late stage. That truly is quite a surprise to me. I just wonder if your divine abilities have truly improved that much. As these words were spoken, a flash of white light appeared. A beautiful woman in a red dress appeared in midair to the side. She gazed coldly at the brocade robe giant. So, it is Madame Fung. However, for fellow Taoist Fung to appear here all alone, aren't you afraid something might have happened to fellow Taoist Long Han? You and your husband have always faced your enemies together. The brocade robe giant, upon seeing the beautiful woman in red, her expression shifted as she said, Don't worry, my husband is an upper immortal cultivator. Even if your divine master were to act personally, he would be powerless against him. I, on the other hand, would love to test the divine abilities of the 4th divine master. Fellow Taoist Han, you should go and rescue the other Taoists. The lady's last sentences were directed at Han Li. Then, with a wave of her hand, she spread her 5 fingers. A small, fiery red bottle with gold and silver accents appeared in the palm of her hand. Before the lady could even cast a spell to activate it, the bottle flashed with a red light, and a ball of fierce fire enveloped it. It then gently floated upwards. The Huo Lin bottle. A trace of solemnity appeared on the face of the man in the brocade robe. He muttered a word under his breath. Upon hearing the beautiful woman's words, Han Li did not hesitate. He shot up, transforming into a streak of cyan and red light, and flew away high into the sky. The expression of the man in the brocade robe darkened. He suddenly took a spirit beast pouch from his waist and tossed it into the air. After a radiant glow burst forth, 2 identical winged, monstrous beasts appeared. Their bodies were covered in cyan feathers, with the heads of tigers and the bodies of eagles. The moment the Donghua beast saw these 2 monstrous figures, he was shocked. He blurted out the monster's name. This is from the Mulan grasslands, a very rare type of Nong beast, proficient in 2 types of magic, earth and wind. It is very difficult to deal with, and these 2 seem to have reached the late core formation stage. They absolutely cannot be underestimated. At this moment, the 2 sky tiger beasts suddenly spread their wings. Their figures vanished in a clear light. The next moment, they appeared one after the other near Han Li, staring at him menacingly. Han Mei's streak of escaping light faltered. Her figure came to an abrupt halt. Teleportation. Han Li cursed inwardly. It was said that this type of demonic beast possessed the divine ability of teleportation. I didn't expect it to be true. In that case, it won't be easy to get rid of these 2 brutes. But Tiannan was capable of more than that. With a flicker, a human figure lightly separated from his back. Then it walked out on its own, just like a real person. This illusory figure looked exactly the same as Tiannan, but its body was made entirely of a vast green light. Its face was blurry and dazzling, as if it were a true phantom. An external avatar? This time, it was the beautiful woman who showed a hint of astonishment. He wasn't surprised that the opponent had an incarnation, but rather, that it was such a bizarre external incarnation. He had never seen one like it before. The cyan shadow flashed by in an instant, shooting towards Han Li's side. The beautiful lady did not move to block it, because the large man in the brocade robe opened his mouth, and spat out a sparkling 5-colored wheel, and said to her, In this way, I can properly spar with both of you. After saying this, he pointed a finger at the colored wheel. The wheel immediately transformed into a cloud of colorful mist, and drifted swiftly toward the beautiful lady. Seeing this, the woman cast a spell with a solemn look on her face, channeling it into the crimson firelin bottle. After the treasure trembled lightly, it erupted with a brilliant red light. Countless scorching flames spewed from the bottle. These fierce flames were greatly different, as if all the flames were alive. One moment they scattered, the next they converged, but after churning for a moment, they formed into a giant crimson serpent. It lunged viciously at the incoming colorful mist. Hearing the rumbling sounds from behind him, even without turning his head, Han Li knew that the beautiful lady and the man had started to fight. He looked at the strange green shadow in front of him, and then glanced at the two heavenly tiger beasts glaring menacingly. He let out a sigh. He knew that, without defeating these three non-human beings, it would be impossible to rescue the other trapped cultivators. And now, even these two individuals, with their special statuses, had taken action. It was clear that everyone else truly had no spare energy to come as reinforcements. Here, if he had known this would happen, he would have given Yunui a few more thunder beads from the start, so she could have gone to rescue people stealthily. Now, there was definitely no longer a chance for that. What he had to do now was to immediately defeat these three enemies. Only then could he consider other matters. Thinking of this, Han Li reached out and swiped at his waist, tossing out a certain spirit beast pouch. A large, shimmering golden swarm of gold beetles swarmed out from the pouch, forming a golden cloud that circled in the air. Han Li, without hesitation, formed a hand seal. It sank into the insect cloud and disappeared. A buzzing sound arose. The insect cloud, amidst flashes of green light, split into three swarms, and flew menacingly towards the three enemies. If these were mature gold beetles, I might have been somewhat afraid. The verdant light and shadow let out a cold snort, emitting a voice exactly the same as Tian's, seemingly not surprised at all. Meanwhile, the two sky tiger beasts, startled by the insect queen's imposing presence, spread their wings and instantly retreated over 70 yards away, a look of fear on their faces. At this moment, the light figure opened its mouth and consecutively spat out three light pillars as thick as a bull. With each one it spat out, the verdant light on the shadow's body dimmed a little. After spitting out all three, its form even shrank by 3 inches. These three light pillars were extremely fast and accurate, striking the insect cloud with unerring precision. 3 popping sounds were heard. A golden light flashed. 3 verdant spheres of light, about 10 feet in diameter, suddenly appeared. 3 swarms of gold devouring beetles were all imprisoned within them. Han Li was taken aback. Without a second thought, he hurriedly pointed at the 3 swarms of beetles. All the gold devouring beetles immediately swarmed densely over the walls of the barrier and began to frantically gnaw at it. After a moment, Han Li's expression turned grim. These verdant light barriers seemed unusually tough. The gold devouring beetles were chewing through them at an incredibly slow pace. Only then did he discover that these 3 verdant light barriers were formed entirely from pure wood spiritual cha, capable of temporarily trapping the gold devouring beetles. It really wasn't a strange matter, but having an easily obtained immobilization technique, while the heavenly tiger beast possessed a teleportation ability, made him feel completely tied down. Could it be that this 4th divine master came specifically for him? Han Li's figure remained motionless, but inwardly, he couldn't help but start to worry. He had a faint, ominous premonition. Han Li's guess was in fact not far from the truth. Before the war, after a discussion among the sorcerer's high command, they had indeed assigned the task of killing Han Li to this Tianzhong. Moreover, they had specially lent the old man surnamed Zhu, the heavenly tiger beast, and several kinds of treasures capable of countering Han Li's divine abilities. To this person, it was just that at the beginning, none of them expected Han Li to participate in the wagered battle. Naturally, this divine master Ta had put the matter to the back of his mind. When Han Li reappeared and killed a group of mages, and also destroyed the physical body of a grand master, this Tianzhong immediately spotted Han Li. Whether it was to stop Han Li from rescuing the cultivators in the blood shield, or to kill him, in order to give the Yingluo sect an explanation, he had no choice but to come over. But he had not expected that Long Han, who had been paying attention to the movements at the blood shield, would also discover it after Han Li broke through the shield and emerged. He immediately took a risk and sent the Phoenix soldiers over. If Han Li could rescue the other few cultivators, this battle would surely be won. The advantageous gold devouring beetle had yet to accomplish anything. When it was temporarily restrained by the opponent, Han Li was naturally quite frustrated. But before he could launch another attack, the 2 sky tiger beasts saw the gold devouring beetle was trapped. Their fear immediately diminished greatly. After a flash of clear light, the 2 spirit beasts vanished from where they stood. Seeing this, Han Li sneered. With a flick of his large sleeve, the small blue shield flew out again. At the same time, he pointed at the swarm of swords before him. Instantly, the sword ore erupted. They danced around Han Li, creating an impenetrable defense. A golden light flashed. The 2 sky tiger beasts appeared on Han Li's left and right. Each opened its mouth and spat out a 4-colored ball of light. A green light flashed in Han Li's eyes. The sword light immediately split into 2, blanketing everything. It headed towards both sides, meeting the 2 balls of light head-on. With 2 muffled explosions, The sword light easily shattered them to pieces. Then it swept directly towards the two beasts. Seeing this, the two beasts, he was surprisingly calm and composed. A cunning glint flashed in his beastly eyes. His figure then vanished once again, teleporting far into the distance. Han Li was furious, just as he was about to command the sword light to pursue that azure shadow. And at that very moment, they made their move. Long Han and the withered beast mage, who were holding the flanks, gave their orders in unison, and simultaneously unleashed their respective trump cards. From their camp, 7 white-haired Nascent Soul cultivators with flowing hair, each held an ancient artifact, and flew out calmly from behind Long Han. Meanwhile, on the mage's side, the woman named Le Crossing, who had yet to appear, also walked out from the ranks of mages with a solemn expression. She came before the withered old man. At a signal from the withered old man, from her storage pouch, she carefully took out the ancient bronze lamp and held it aloft in her palm. The woman, Le Crossing, tossed the ancient lamp into the air. Her lips parted slightly. A wisp of white flame shot out from her mouth. Igniting the ancient lamp, the woman formed a lotus-shaped seal with her hands. A low, abstruse incantation was slowly uttered, as a white lotus bloomed beneath her, making her appear like a graceful celestial fairy. The sound of a sudden downpour. It was filled with an indescribable, primal savagery, and the bronze lamp suddenly trembled. Phantoms flickered into existence. 9 identical drum-shaped lamps flashed out. After circling for a moment, they arranged themselves into a pyramid formation. They slowly rotated in the air. The vicious woman flicked her slender fingers. 9 beams of magical light, each a different color, shot onto the drum lamps. A brilliant golden light erupted. 9 flower-like flames simultaneously floated out from the lamps. They coalesced at the center of the pyramid formation. It turned into a skull-sized mass of brilliant azure flame. With a splat, the woman spat a mouthful of essence blood onto the azure flame. The fiery light suddenly surged. In an instant, it became blindingly dazzling. A moment later, a clear cry rang out. A foot-sized green bird. It emerged from within the fiery light. The bird's form was light and graceful. Its cry was like a soft human whisper. It had a pair of fiery red eyes. They shimmered as brilliantly as gemstones. It was, in fact, a magnificent green peacock. It glanced around with a haughty expression. Its gaze fell upon the vicious woman directly below. It lowered its head slightly. It dipped the tip of its crest. From its mouth came a certain barbaric tongue from an ancient era. The wicked woman, with a reverent expression, bowed deeply to the female bird. She performed a ritual of 3 kowtows. The same language came from her mouth, and they began to converse. Seeing this, the wizened old man showed a grave expression on his face. The wicked woman suddenly stopped her ancient speech. Then, with a flip of her fair hand, an unknown pink, round bead appeared in her palm. Its fragrance filled the air. Its origin was unknown. The moment the green peacock saw this round bead, it revealed a joyful expression. It opened its beak. A puff of green mist erupted from its mouth. It sucked that round bead directly into its mouth. In a flash of brilliance, a halo of light rose from the green bird's body. Immediately, green flames erupted from its body, transforming it into a firebird. After a sharp cry, the bird spread its wings and soared into the sky. The fire spiritual energy in a 10-li radius suddenly grew chaotic. All the cultivators attacking with fire tribute techniques and their spell forms simultaneously discovered their spell's power had been reduced by half. They couldn't help but be greatly astonished. Countless streams of fire spiritual energy converged like rivers flowing to the sea, pouring into the cyan bird's body wisp by wisp. The bird's body immediately swelled in size. Its brilliant plumage became increasingly dazzling. All the cultivators within a 10-li radius froze in astonishment and looked towards the cyan firebird, because the surrounding temperature instantly skyrocketed. Even with the protection of various magical artifacts, they felt as if they were standing right next to a furnace. It sent a shock through everyone's heart. But when they saw the peacock within the cyan flames, the faces of the mages lit up with wild joy. It's the sacred bird. Master Yue has summoned the sacred bird. We will win this battle. Some of the mages shouted loudly, and immediately launched a frenzied attack on their opponents. They appeared incredibly excited. When the beast-taming elder saw the bird's divine might, a rare smile appeared on his face. The black-robed woman from the Yin Luo sect gazed at the cyan peacock in the flames. A strange look flashed across her eyes. Suddenly, she said, for this sacred bird to be able to control the fire spirits of heaven and earth, it must be at least at the spirit transformation stage. No wonder you consider this your last resort. However, although this sacred bird's realm is high, when it first emerged, its internal spiritual power is only at the early Nascent Soul stage. Now, even after absorbing so much fire spiritual energy, it has only barely improved. To the late stage, this should be a clone of its main body. right? Otherwise, in your war against the two Wu people, you wouldn't have lost so badly. Madame Lu, you are indeed extraordinary. You saw through it with just a single glance. This saintly being is indeed not its main body, but even so, it is still extraordinary. An ordinary late-stage Nascent Soul cultivator is no match for it. The old man glanced at the black-robed woman, and said calmly, indeed, the ability to utilize the spiritual energy of heaven and earth is a great divine power that only those at the deity transformation stage can grasp. With this ability alone, it is virtually invincible. The black-robed woman nodded. There was a hint of envy in her expression. Seeing this, the old man chuckled and said no more. Meanwhile, the 7 elders who flew out holding ancient treasures had just used several ancient treasures to kill some mages. When they saw the giant bird in the sky, a look of horror appeared on their faces. Oh no! This demonic beast looks so terrifying. Ordinary cultivators are definitely no match for it. We must stop it, a gray-robed elder said, his face paling. Then what are we waiting for? We must quickly use the 7 treasures of Tian to destroy this demon. This demon is clearly not a creature of this realm. We absolutely must not let it cast spells and harm people. Another elder said with a fiery temper. He then transformed into a streak of yellow light, and was the first to charge towards that Qingyang. Seeing this, the others immediately followed him. However, the robe-wearing elder in the lead showed a hint of hesitation. But after a sigh, he also transformed into a flash of light and flew over. Just as the 7 of them flew near the Cyan Sun, before the Mulan Saint, it seemed to have finished absorbing the fire spirit energy. Its body had already grown to over 200 feet long. With a flick of its green hand, it discovered the 7 cultivators who were filled with hostility. A fierce glint instantly flashed in its eyes. With one flap of its wings, fist-sized, cyan fireballs surged out in a dense barrage, smashing towards the 7 men. The 7 elders had not yet even begun their attack, when a blast of hot wind swept past them. Their entire bodies immediately felt an unbearable heat. The hearts of the 7 men turned cold, seeing so many cyan fireballs rushing towards them. A long-eyebrowed elder slapped his storage pouch with one hand. Then, with a flick of his hand, an unusually crystalline ice net flew up to meet them. This net was truly marvelous. After a great flash of white light, it instantly trapped all the numerous fireballs within the net. Seeing this, the long-eyebrowed elder showed a faint smile, but his face suddenly turned pale. The fireballs within the ice net suddenly exploded. The ice net then burned and dissolved before his very eyes. In the blink of an eye, it was utterly destroyed. It transformed into a pillar of fire, shooting menacingly toward everyone. The leading elder's eyes were sharp, and with swift hands, he sent out the ancient treasure he held. A vast, white ancient mirror appeared from thin air and circled once. A white, glowing mist swirled out from the mirror, forming a white curtain that actually held back the azure flame, preventing it from descending. But when the other elders saw the long-eyebrowed elder's treasure being destroyed, they couldn't help but gasp. They knew this azure flame was truly extraordinary. No one dared to use their ordinary magic treasures anymore. Quickly, deploy the great demon trapping array, the leading elder roared. Upon hearing his words, the other elders hurriedly obeyed and sent out their ancient treasures one by one. A red ruler, a yellow dagger axe, a command token, a small cauldron, a jade fan, and a ruby scepter, 6 treasures in total, rose into the air. They shot towards the giant bird's body. After a long cry, the surrounding spiritual light flared, and the previous ancient mirror transformed into a colorful mist. Not only did it hold back the cyan flame, it also formed a 7-colored net that surrounded the giant bird. Seeing this, the cyan bird, the anger in its eyes grew even fiercer. It opened its beak and suddenly unleashed a blast into the void below. A huge, cone-shaped ray of cyan light flashed and vanished in an instant, disappearing from sight. And below, a tall, elderly man suddenly felt the token he had sent out. After his ancient treasure suddenly let out a loud bang, the token was struck and sent flying back. The old man was scared out of his wits. He hurriedly cast a series of spells at the token, trying to regain control. But the token only paused for a moment to no avail. It still came flying fiercely, just as the token was about to smash into the old man himself. Suddenly, a figure flashed by. 2 arms pressed down on the old man's shoulders. At the same time, a vast and potent power flowed into his body. Quick, cast your spell, I will lend you a hand. A cold voice was heard. It was the voice of the gray-robed elder. Hearing this, the tall elder's spirits were immediately lifted. In one breath, he again cast 4 or 5 seals at the token. It finally stopped about a dozen or so yards away, and he regained control. Both of them couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. After experiencing that scene, The other elders were also secretly alarmed. They dared not be the slightest bit careless. They hurriedly pushed the power of the ancient fortress to its limit. Various lights intertwined with each other. They actually managed to block a few of the cyan light cones from the giant bird. The Yue woman, not far from them, saw this scene before her eyes. She looked back at the ancient lamp behind her, and hesitated for a moment. She did not go forward to help. Before the lamp oil was completely burned out, she had to guard this lamp. She could not let it be extinguished by a sneak attack. Otherwise, the consequences would be disastrous. The elder controlling the giant bird was actually being tied down by these few elders. A flash of surprise crossed his face, but he immediately acted as if nothing was wrong. He was not in a hurry, because this was the creature their Mulan clan had worshipped for tens of thousands of years, a sacred beast. It clearly had the upper hand, and the treasures wielded by these 7 elders, although they were exceptionally powerful, they were still no match for the sacred beast. It could definitely, before the lamp oil ran out, kill these 7 cultivators. These people must be Tian Nan's final trump card, right? Thinking of this assistant god's gaze couldn't help but turn towards the opposing cultivator camp. Long Han was standing before more than 1,000 spellcasters, his face dark and grim. He never expected the Mulan people could still summon this kind of monstrous bird. Now they were in big trouble. Long Han's expression remained unchanged, but he murmured something inaudibly, quickly released that batch of spirit beast statues. While the Taisian Che cultivators can still hold that monstrous bird, let them be of some use as well. Long Han's voice suddenly grew louder, as he commanded coldly. As this command was passed down, dozens of glossy, jet-black beast statues were silently pushed to the front of the camp by the cultivators. Then, a few cultivators took out spirit talismans and slapped them onto the statues. A green light flashed. The spirit talismans bizarrely sank into the statues, disappearing without a trace. These cultivators immediately sat cross-legged on the ground, becoming completely still. A moment later, the beast statues flashed with a multicolored light. Then, their eyes shot out a cold, blue light. They lifted their claws, stretched their legs, and all came to life. Then, without any command, they shot forward from where they stood, the heavy spell formation pouncing on the battlefield, and those cultivators who had activated the spirit talismans remained motionless, sitting cross-legged with their hands at their sides, as if they had fallen asleep. The gaunt old man saw this scene from a distance, but his face revealed a hint of sarcasm. He turned his head and said politely to the woman in the black robe beside him, "We have fought for this long. It is time to deal them a fatal blow. Lady Lu, release your sex bronze armored cores. This will be enough to secure our victory." The old man was full of confidence after saying this. "Brother Jew, do not be hasty. Let's wait a little longer. My sex bronze armored cores are, for the most part, only at the foundation establishment stage of cultivation. We must wait until the spiritual power of the Tian Nan cultivators is nearly depleted. Only then will our attack have a truly shocking effect." After her eyes flickered a few times, the woman in the black robe said calmly, "Very well then. As long as your esteemed sect has not changed its mind, waiting a little longer is no great matter." The gaunt old man frowned slightly. He was somewhat hesitant, but he then nodded in agreement. What she said was not entirely without reason. Han Li was extremely frustrated at this moment, partly because the 2 heavenly fox beasts were incredibly cunning. They stuck to him like glue and would not let go. But they didn't dare to face him head-on. They just stubbornly harassed him from nearby. A short while ago, he deliberately revealed an opening, luring the 2 demon beasts to get close. Then he suddenly launched an attack. Using the Shu Road's first light technique, he sliced off half of one demon beast's claw. Ever since then, the 2 demon beasts refused to fall for his tricks again. They just kept attacking with orbs of light from a distance. They wouldn't get within 100 feet of Han Li, but whenever Han Li tried to shake them off using his wind and thunder wings, the 2 demon beasts would immediately catch up, harassing him endlessly, forcing him to stop his thunder escape to defend against them. And the other reason for his frustration was, of course, that azure light shadow. Speaking of which, this azure light shadow seemed to be composed entirely of pure wood spiritual cha. The green bamboo wind and cloud sword had no effect on it whatsoever. No matter how many times his sword shattered it into fragments, it would immediately reform itself. It was completely unafraid of being slain by Han Li. This kind of situation was something Han Li had never encountered since entering the world of cultivation. It was truly an eye-opener for him. Han Li's sword was useless. He naturally resorted to using the Qianlin Binyan, but to his surprise, the green shadow unexpectedly spat out a blue yuan orb. The azure lotus ice flames also shot towards it, but they were unexpectedly absorbed into the orb. This caused Han Li to break out in a cold sweat. Fortunately, these ice flames had long been refined as one with him. After he activated them with his spiritual sense, they finally struggled free from the orb and returned to his body. Otherwise, since he hadn't refined much of these ice flames to begin with, if a portion of them had been taken, the loss would have been immense. As a result, Han Li also dared not use his purple apex fire and cold energy abilities lightly. As for the silver bell, the 1,000-layer peak, and his other treasures, Han Li tried using them all later, but they were similarly ineffective against his opponent. Although the green shadow did not have an immortal body, every time it suffered a heavy blow, the green light around its body would dim and it would shrink slightly, but it was clearly not an opponent he could defeat in a short time. Fortunately, his opponent didn't seem to have any powerful offensive techniques or magic treasures. It could only attack by releasing streams of azure spirit threads, which Han Li could handle with ease. It seemed to him that this so-called avatar was merely trying to stall him. Meanwhile, the beautiful red-clothed Phoenix Maiden on the other side, although she was at the peak of the mid-Nascent Soul stage, compared to an opponent who had already reached the late stage, her strength was still far inferior. Although she was unleashing her divine abilities, this madam was still completely at a disadvantage, and the fourth divine master, whose cold gazes occasionally shot over, made Han Li feel extremely uncomfortable, as if needles were on his back. At this moment, a situation unfolded on the mage's side, a display of unfathomably deep divine power. 7 cultivators, each holding a rare treasure, all at the Nascent Soul stage, were beaten by him to the point they could only defend, with no strength to fight back. Seeing this, Han Li's heart sank. The only chance of victory now was to rescue those trapped cultivators. Only then was there a chance to turn the tables. Otherwise, this battle would truly end in a crushing defeat. Han Li considered for a moment, and steeled his heart. He decided not to drag it out any longer. Just as he shot out a blast of sword che, knocking back a heavenly beast tiger in an instant, his other hand slapped his storage pouch. A wooden box covered with talismans appeared in his hand. The graceful figure opposite him saw Han Li's action, and let out a soft sound of surprise. But with a raise of her hand, countless strands of wood spirit green silk came down upon Han Li. Han Li's figure remained completely still, with just a thought. The light outside its body transformed into a vibrant glow. It sliced all the green threads into countless cocoons, and on the surface of the Mo River, a clear light flashed. The talisman peeled off and fell away. A streak of blood-red light shot out from the river. After circling once, it landed in the palm of his hand. It was precisely that Advent talisman. Without a moment's hesitation, Han Li slapped the blood talisman onto his body. A blood-red light flashed. The talisman vanished in an instant. A clear light flashed across Han Li's face. He suddenly let out a sharp breath. An enormous flood dragon's phantom appeared over Han Li. Its aura swelled with a voracious hunger. Its entire body was blood-red. It had the exact appearance of that level 8 poisonous flood dragon. After appearing, this flood dragon shadow coiled above Han Li's head. It then tilted its head to the sky and let out an earth-shattering roar. The nearby cultivators were all shaken and stunned. Over there, the two people fighting turned to look this way in shock. After seeing the flood dragon phantom, Tianzhong frowned, his face showing a trace of solemnity. Fung Bin, however, had a flicker in her bright eyes, revealing a hint of anticipation. The dragon's roar subsided. The flood dragon phantom soared into the sky. Then, after circling for a moment, its body rapidly shrank. It lunged down again. The Jiaowang drilled into Han Li's back and vanished without a trace. At that moment, Han Li felt a scorching heat on his back. A bloody light was forced through his body, revealing a blood-red jiao pattern. It was several inches in size, so vividly red it seemed about to drip. At the same time, a bloody light flickered all over Han Li's body. Then, from his cheeks to his arms, patches of uniform, blood-colored scales appeared. They were thumb-sized and exceptionally crystalline, and after a sharp pain on his head, a small, delicate horn also emerged. It was exceptionally crystalline. The tips of his 10 fingers had, at some point, transformed into sharp claws. Han Li had actually become a half-jiao, half-human creature. As Han Li felt the astonishing spiritual energy within his body, he was somewhat surprised, and also a bit horrified. The effect of this spirit-commanding talisman, although at the end of the refining incantation, it was briefly mentioned. It said that it could transfer part of the refined demon soul's cultivation onto the body of the user, thereby greatly increasing the user's magical power and causing their cultivation level to grow immensely, but it was never mentioned that the spellcaster would actually turn into this half-demon, half-human form, similar in appearance to the spirit revival art. Of course, This type of demonization was clearly much milder than the true spirit revival art. At the very least, he didn't grow fangs, or sprout a tail like that Taoist, and that man Husey's heaven-supporting demon lord bore a 70 to 80% resemblance. He sighed tearfully, touched the sharp horn on his forehead, and remained silent. Han Li naturally didn't know about this so-called Advent talisman. It was actually created by the founding ancestor of the Heavenly Talisman sect. Developed based on the Spirit Revival art, he improved upon several of the Spirit Revival art's flaws. Not only does it allow the user to maintain their original consciousness, it also avoids the mixing of demonic and spiritual qi, which causes great harm by overdrafting the recipient, and one won't turn into a mindless monster. The only drawback to this is that the refinement of the Advent talisman is too difficult in this realm, let alone possessing an 8th level demon soul. Many cultivators, in their entire lifetime, will never even get the chance to see an 8th level demon beast, but only an 8th level demon beast that has taken human form will have a demon soul that, after refinement, will not cause harm to the user. Although low-level demon souls can also be used to refine the possession talisman, their demon souls contain far too much turbid qi. After being refined into a talisman, they are actually just as harmful as the soul revival technique. Therefore, the refining method repeatedly emphasizes that a demon soul of level 8 or higher must be used to successfully refine the talisman. Although Han Li was a bit surprised, he felt his own cultivation level soar dramatically, reaching what seemed to be the peak of the initial Nascent Soul stage. It seemed the effects of this possession talisman were real. After Han Li was possessed by the Jiaolong soul, those to heavenly tiger beasts sensed the poisonous Jiaolong aura on Han Li. Their expressions once again showed unease, but Kinyan let out a few low shouts, and the two heavenly tiger beasts calmed down again. Han Li sneered. The wine thunder wings on his back unfurled, and he vanished from his spot, reappearing a short distance away. Seeing this, the two heavenly tiger beasts hurriedly flashed with a clear light at the same time, and immediately teleported near Han Li. One of them then opened its mouth, and shot out several light projectiles in succession. A glint flashed in Han Li's eyes. A clap of thunder sounded from behind him, and he vanished without a trace once more. The next moment, he appeared behind this demonic beast. But just then, the other demonic beast timed it perfectly, and attacked by spitting out a light orb as well. According to their previous tactics, he would have had to first use his sword light to block this attack. The heavenly fox beast in front of him would have then been able to take the opportunity to escape. But this time, Han Li, with his greatly increased cultivation, didn't even need to use his sword light. A spiritual light flashed from both sides of his body. He actually intended to risk relying on just his protective spiritual energy to block these few light orbs. His body swayed slightly as he waved a single hand. A streak of cyan and red light shot down. Its speed was like a celestial flying from beyond the heavens. It was unstoppable. The heavenly tiger beast, in its terror, didn't have time to use its teleportation technique. It could only open its mouth and spit out a cyan yellow beast core, wanting to block this attack. The green shadow, seeing that things looked bad, also rushed over. As it waved its two hands, dense strands of green silk shot towards Han Li. With a loud rumbling boom, several light orbs exploded beside Han Li. But Han Li's figure only swayed for a moment, and he was completely unharmed. On the contrary, with a single flash from the flying sword, he commanded with all his might. It not only split the beast core in two, even its slender body was also sliced into two in a single strike. The beast, unable to use its teleportation technique in time, was no match for Han Li, whose cultivation had greatly increased. But nimble, azure spiritual threads also instantly wrapped around Han Li's body. But a crimson light flashed from Han Li's body. The moment these azure threads made contact with Han Li's protective spiritual light, they turned pitch black, and then dissolved into nothing. What a potent poison! Han Li was startled at first, but then became overjoyed. He had only intended to block the azure threads with his protective spiritual light, but he never expected that upon using it, he would so easily counter this move. It seems the Cyan Phantom is actually afraid of the baleful poison. A mournful roar was heard. The other sky tiger beast saw its mate being killed, its eyes filled with madness. After a flash of cyan light, the beast teleported directly to Han Li's side. Its sharp claws glowed with foot-long gleams of light, and viciously swiped at Han Li. It seemed to have lost all reason. Han Li remained expressionless. He didn't use his sword light. Instead, he raised a hand, revealing a sharp, scaled claw. With a blur in the air, the blood mang was unleashed at full force, directly affecting the opposing claw mang. Two light thuds were heard. Han Li went after the blood mang. He easily pierced through its beastly claws. Then, with a flicker of his body, his arm easily pierced through its body. He grabbed the fava bean-sized, cyan, and yellow beast core and snatched it out. The corpse fell straight down. From the moment Han Li unleashed the Xianglin Fu and his cultivation surged. To him, killing two beasts in succession. It all happened in the blink of an eye. It made Na Xin freeze in her tracks. She unexpectedly did not press forward to continue the fight, becoming somewhat hesitant and uncertain. But Han Li's figure flashed, and he was already coldly sizing up. The other side, where Emi Fu was being suppressed by Tiazhong, unable to catch her breath. He had already seen this scene very clearly. Naturally, he was both shocked and furious. He suddenly commanded the five-colored Cylon to furiously attack the opposing Emi Fu. After a few strikes, his figure flickered. Abandoning the opponent before him, he transformed into a streak of light, shooting straight toward Han Li. But at that very moment, a rumbling, muffled bang came from below. The nearby blood shield suddenly burst open. A surge of vast, white chill erupted violently from the breach. A silver-red streak mixed within it shot out. After circling once, it came to a stop near Han Li. After the radiance subsided, the silver-red light revealed a beautiful woman in white. It was actually the woman surnamed by whom Han Li had seen before. She appeared in midair, and glanced around with an expressionless face. Upon seeing Han Li, Fung Bing, and the others, her beautiful brows twitched slightly. This lady's sudden appearance also caused the escaping light Tiazhong had transformed into to pause involuntarily, revealing his figure once again. His expression was grim and uncertain, and Fung Bing, upon seeing this woman, also broke free from the ward. Her spirits lifted as she couldn't help but cry out, "Fellow Taoist Bai, you've come out at just the right time. This man is the fourth divine master of the Mulan. Let's quickly hold him down, so that fellow Taoist Han can go rescue the others first." The fourth divine master, you say? So, you are involved in this trap as well? The woman surnamed Bai glanced at Tiazhong with her ice-cold eyes, and said with a hint of killing intent, "I didn't expect that. Besides that boy, someone else could break the bloodlight ward. I knew those people from the Yin Luo sect were unreliable." Tiazhong did not answer the question from the woman surnamed Bai. Instead, his face darkened as he muttered, "Courting death." Seeing that the other party had no intention of answering the question, the wealthy man's face turned ashen. After a furious shout, he rubbed his hands together and then flung them out. A vast wave of frosty aura mixed with countless crystalline snowflakes surged towards the opponent in a vast white expanse. The momentum was astonishingly powerful. Seeing this, Fung Bin also pointed towards the fiery forest in the air. Raging flames shot out from the other side, attacking the field. Han Li no longer hesitated. The twin wings on his back flashed. After a few claps of thunder, he instantly shook off Qinjing, who was in front of him, and dashed straight towards the blood sigil on the other side. Although after using the Jianglin talisman, he was somewhat confident he could eliminate Qinjing. But in comparison, it was more important to quickly save the person and turn the tide of the battle. Seeing that the blood sigil was right before his eyes, with a flip of his hand, another thunder pearl appeared in his palm. "Master, be careful." Just as Han Li took a deep breath and was about to unleash the thunder pearl in his hand, a warning voice suddenly sounded in his ear. Han Li's heart skipped a beat, but without a second thought, he first threw the thunder pearl in his hand. It turned into a ball of clear light and smashed fiercely towards the protective barrier below. But at that very moment, a head-sized azure fireball shot out from nowhere. As Han Li's expression changed dramatically, with the speed of a shooting star, it struck the thunder pearl perfectly. With a soft whoosh, the thunder pearl was silently swallowed by the fireball. Then, the fireball spun around rapidly, transforming into an azure firebird about a foot in size. It floated in the air. A green glint flashed across Han Li's face. He formed a hand seal with both hands. The thunder pearl exploded with a boom inside the firebird, but the bird's body merely shook violently, and then it was fine again. In fact, its body even expanded a little as a result. Staring intently at Han Li. Seeing this, Han Li cursed inwardly. He looked up and saw another series of azure fireballs shoot over from the direction of the shanking. They landed one by one near the blood shield, and in the blink of an eye, they also transformed into azure firebirds. They completely surrounded the blood shield, protecting it. This time, Han Li understood. These birds were actually deeply connected to the lamp flame emitted by the shanking. No wonder the thunder pearl's counterattack actually nourished the opponent instead. After all, the main ingredient of the thunder pearl was refined from that very same lamp flame. And not far from the Jimu orchid in full bloom, a woman from the Ming-Le tribe was staring coldly at Han Li. Their gazes met. It turned out this woman was the one manipulating that demonic bird. Han Li immediately understood what was going on. He was naturally furious inside. But when his gaze fell upon what was in front of the woman, the 9 floating bone lanterns, Han Li couldn't help but narrow his eyes. Staring at the slowly burning green flames, he calmed down, and a thoughtful expression appeared on his face. As for those azure firebirds, they did not attack Han Li in the slightest. They just circled and flew around the blood shield. At this moment, a white light flashed. A figure suddenly appeared beside Han Li. "Please forgive me, Master. This subordinate was useless. I was unable to help at all in the previous battle. The spiritual senses of those sky tiger beasts were too keen. They detected me the moment I got close. It was impossible to get near them, to cast my illusions and bewitching spells." The figure pleaded for forgiveness. "Forget it. You did your best." Han Li shook his head and said calmly, "However, here are 2 thunder beads. You take them for now. See if you can sneak near the other blood shields to rescue the people. Right now, we must save who we can." Han Li then tossed 2 thunder beads to Yinyue. "This servant will do her utmost." Yinyue extended her slender, jade-like hand, and solemnly accepted the thunder beads. Her graceful figure then vanished into the white light. Han Li glanced behind him again. He saw that in Tiazhong's direction, crimson flames and white frost chill were intertwined, and from time to time, 5-colored clouds would flash. For a moment, it was impossible to tell who had the upper hand. As for that phantom, it had also vanished without a trace at some point. It was unclear if it was because he was facing the combined attack of 2 mid-stage cultivators that Tiazhong was struggling and had recalled it, or if it was because he saw Shang Qing take action personally that he felt confident enough to boldly recall his avatar. Han Li turned his head back. He looked down at the dozen or so cyan firebirds. A green light flashed in his eyes. A brilliant aura of cyan and red spiritual light erupted from his body, completely enveloping him within it. At the same time, with a raise of his hand, he sent out the blue light shield. He then formed a hand seal, and with a mental command, the shield expanded to block his front. His other hand flipped over, and another thunder bead appeared in his palm. A clap of thunder exploded from behind. With a flicker of his body, Han Li appeared in a flash of lightning above the protective shield, high above the stonefish canopy. Before he could even throw the thunder pearl in his hand, the surrounding firebirds swarmed in from all directions like a tide. Azure flames instantly enveloped the sky above the blood shield. Han Li's figure was momentarily submerged within them. At this time, Long Han's gaze had just shifted away from Han Li. He had originally hoped that Han Li and the others would be able to quickly rescue those who were trapped and turn the unfavorable tide of the battle. But seeing that so-called sacred creature spit out so many fireballs toward Han Li, which then transformed into firebirds, he knew there was not much hope left. His gaze shifted, looking towards the master's side again. He saw that although the 7 immortals of Tianzhen were relying on their 7 treasures to barely resist that demon bird's azure, demon fire, they were clearly on the verge of collapse. Although it only had a late-stage Nascent Soul cultivation base, this peacock, which possessed the power of the spirit transformation realm, was clearly not something the 7 of them could hold back for long. Release the Yin-Yang Twin Devils. Tell the Twin Devils not to rush to kill anyone. Have them destroy those skeletons first. Long Han spoke in a low, deep voice. He played his final trump card.